right. And yeah, again, welcome to the May edition, May 2022 of Siebel Friday. The agenda is quite packed with a lot of exciting things. So the plan is to go quickly through the 22.5 update, the highlights, which are on your screen already. And then we have special guest today, Alok from BC Ferries, and he's going to present his story of the upgrade they took from Siebel 15, was it correct?
Yeah, that's right.
The 22 upgrade, so that's going to be very, very interesting, of course. So that is in a few minutes. And then let's see what we have time for. I think we should talk about the statement of direction, and we should talk about Siebel Cloud Manager, because these are the things that have been introduced or modified as of late. Okay, so 22.5 is just released a few days ago, and there are 3 new official features. So the first is data visualization components. Then we have migration application enhancements we'll discuss in a minute. And the REST API gets another industry integration for DX4C for pricing. Then there's a little bit of note about bookshelf task activation after migration. And yeah, as mentioned, the statement of direction has been released, updated for April 2022. And Siebel Cloud Manager was just announced during last Siebel Friday. So it was just released and we didn't have really much time. And now 1 month has elapsed and maybe there's even more stories from your side on Cloud Manager. Okay, so this first detail slide is about those data visualization components, and who doesn't remember all the demos that we have seen over the past few years? I remember going back to my old blog posts on the Siebel Hub. I found one tweet of mine from Oracle Open World 17, where, well, I took a screenshot of a dashboard that was demonstrated there. So that was Future of Siebel 5 years ago. And now we are, well, live with dashboards, which are, well, technically views, and the content of these dashboards are applets. And Oracle provides us with 3 new applet types. So infolet, those are the small tile-sized ones on the top with a single or multiple data points. Hierarchy, that's 3 applets on steroids. I can't put it any better. And there's the timeline, which has kind of made it through a lot of demos. And the timeline is quite nifty too. And you can imagine there's a lot of trickery with web templates and JavaScript, physical renderers, presentation models that makes all this possible. And Oracle's not stopping with just providing the classes and web templates. They have also pulled together 3 sample dashboard views in different, well, let's say different screens. It's assigned to applications, but as you know, it can be it's a view. It can be viewed in any application. So there's the financial services contact dashboard. You see a screenshot right there. So that showcases all these 3 new types of applets. Then there's one for high-tech industrial manufacturing, or HTIM. And there's one for e-communications, or telco. The telco one, I remember from a while ago. It was just kind of updated a little bit. So I've prepared a little demo, if you indulge me. This is the live financial services dashboard. I have played around with it a little bit. So this average revenue is a custom infolet I created. And so you can drill down from these infolets and see the open service requests here. And of course, you can go back. Then there's also lots of drill downs into details from the hierarchy and the timeline, of course. The timeline, there's not enough time to really talk about this, but if you watch read the latest blog post on the Siebel Hub on data visualization components, if you scroll down all the way, well, you see a lot of information, and we have a brand new recorded video training. So I had some extra hours put in to get this ready for this Siebel Friday. So we have a brand new module on data visualization, where you can learn how to create custom infolets, custom hierarchies, custom timelines, and customize them further with OpenUI, custom physical renderer. So if you're interested, just drop me a note. And there's also a coupon code for the early birds here. Okay, so the other, let's take a look at the other sample dashboard. So here's the HTIM application dashboard with actually nice touch. The data is pretty useless in my sample database. So the chart applets, they pull way too much historical data, but that's filters, that's search specs. These are classic chart applets. So of course, chart applets are data visualization 101. They are included here. And this is the telco dashboard, which mostly demonstrates telco processes and integration, and not only has the timeline as the new applet type. Okay, just give you a quick impression. So these are now live views with the new applet types. Any comments on these? Anything you wanna say about these dashboards? How excited you are?
I can't wait to find a way to use it.
Okay. Can't wait. All right, then 22.5 also has other features. The migration application has been, well, has gotten some attention, and now if you run a migration plan execution, then you have the action button morphs into a stop button once you click start. And there's also a REST API command where you can do the same action. You can abort a running migration plan, which is of course quite handy if you figure out, oh, it's the wrong environment. Oh, we're pushing. Let's not push to production. It should have gone to QA, whatever. So this is the stop button is there. If you refresh those steps, there's no screenshot here, but if you recall, each step has these refresh buttons. And you want to see what's going on, you click all the steps. And now you just click one step, refresh button, and it refreshes all the steps. And the history view, also not shown here prominently, the history view has a query and delete button now. So you can run queries in that SMC style, because that's the list. It's not an applet, of course, but the list allows queries now. And the delete button allows you to delete the history records in the database. And as Bookshelf also tells us, it attempts to delete the file system artifacts, those temporary log files, and data files, and zip files. And another feature is that when a process gets hung, something went wrong, like database connection, whatever was down, then you have it in a running status forever. And you had to go through some pretty nasty gymnastics with SQL until 22.5. So now there's an automated cleanup when you start up the Tomcat hosting the migration application. It identifies any hung or still running execution, and it will put it in the history as with a status of error. So you can start running executions again. Okay. Yeah. Any comments on that?
Hey, Alex, go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, I'll just say that it's really going to be helpful. We're actually getting ready to do our migrations in a month or two, so this will be helpful.
Great. All I was going to add was one thing that is perhaps not clear, but I thought I'd mention it in case you see it and are confused. We don't have a way to actually stop the plan, literally like kill the process. We haven't found a good way to do that at this time. Mm-hmm. So when you stop, it'll stop processing any further steps, but the actual physical utility like DataExp or something will keep running in the background.
Right.
It just won't move on to the next step. So and we're going to try to figure out how to fix that, but it's pretty tricky because we don't know what Siebel server it's running on. Right. We just know it's running. So it's kind of hard to do.
Well, find that process on all the servers and kill it.
Well, but there might be another one legitimately running.
Okay.
So we have to figure out how we kill the right one is the issue.
Yeah, right. Well, so it could be the case that for example, you do a migration to production, and it's just running data imp for your administrative data, and you stop it. It continues to complete that data import.
Yeah.
And,
which you
and you have that data in production, right?
Yeah, but if you stop in the middle, you could have data corruption as well.
So exactly. Kind of so you can't really
situation from that aspect as well.
Right, and so I think that brings up the whole Pandora's box of rolling back, which usually boils down to take a backup of your database before you do it.
Yeah, if you're doing hopefully most people would stop, as you said, like as soon as you realize like, oh, that was dumb, and you stop it pretty much right away. If you stop it in the middle of repository import or something, you're going to have orphan records. There's no way to, you'll have to manually clean them up.
Yeah, right. So again, still apply some common sense and do a backup of your database.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's definitely an update for the migration app. And the other official feature update is the inbound REST API. It has, over the past year or so, it got a lot of industry REST APIs. The first one was products. Then there was a catalog product administration, and now pricing. So basically exposing new updated or existing updated integration objects and business services and workflow processes, exposing them the usual REST API way to allow external systems to update price lists, update pricing conditions. And that goes under the name of pricing administration. REST API is documented in the REST guide, and it stems from the DX4C integration for the LaunchX product, the product catalog there. But it can be used for any other integration. So am I saying this correctly? So it's kind of a backport for on-premises customers, has made its way into the master repository.
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
We actually don't have separate repositories. Yeah. We have one.
Okay.
It's so, but it's that it was written with DX4C in mind, and so we made the necessary changes to support it for on-premise as well.
Okay. So
it would be a better way to think about it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's, as you said, thanks, Brian. So yeah, REST API is an area where you really see a lot of movement in every month. There's some tiny changes sometimes or big changes. So that's good to see, I think. any comments welcome, of course. Okay, no comment there. And that's the last one before we start with Alok's presentation. That is actually, it says documented with, but maybe it should say no longer documented with a bookshelf upgrade guide. That's also the guide for my migration application. It has in the What's New chapter, it says the steps to activate tasks are obsolete and have been removed. So I was curious, and I had some conversation with Carrie and Brian. And now basically with 22.5, you're no longer supposed, and actually for quite a long time, you're not supposed to publish tasks. That's what it's all about, the tasks of Task UI. You're not supposed to publish them using that business service, which was printed in Bookshelf until now. So you're actually supposed to manually activate tasks after full and incremental migration. And but that is now undocumented, so it's kind of missing. Yeah. Brian, do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Is Carrie not on here? No, I don't see him. Okay.
No, Carrie had to go. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. I just wanted him to take it. But no, it's okay. So we don't want to automatically activate tasks because you could activate two things that are, because out of the box, we provide tasks for, say, communications and high tech, whatever. And so activating both might conflict with each other. Right. And so we removed that automation of activating it, and then it was removed from Bookshelf, but it was supposed to be replaced with a statement that says you need to go manually activate the ones that you actually want, just like you always did in the past anyway, right. Like, pre 17. So that's really it. It's just missing the statement that says you need to manually activate them, and you only need to do that if they've changed, or if you do a full migration. I mean, if you don't have to do it every single release or anything. It's
no. To summarize, so after full migration, you definitely have to do it.
Right.
But after incremental, only if there was a task included that has been updated or created.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now, and then the whole issue, I think part of the issue is in parallel, the same writer is also updating this for the updating everything with respect to tasks being workspace enabled in, I think 22.7, maybe 22.8. Carrie would know for sure.
Wow, spoiler alert.
Yeah, so the point is that when that happens, this all just goes away anyway, because if it's active in the repository, then it gets automatically deployed into our table.
Like workflows.
Just like workflows, or for that matter, applets and BizComs, right?
Right.
If something's active, it gets compiled and we use it. Mm-hmm. So, but in terms of a transition, the transition to that model will look like the workflow transition.
Okay.
Where we inactivate things that we don't think are being used. Occasionally we mess up, but you just reactivate it, not a big deal. And then all the others that are not already deployed will be inactivated, and therefore will not be compiled into our tables, and therefore will not be migrated, and therefore won't do anything.
Okay, so yeah, thanks much for clarifying this, Brian. And so this is really
this is a temporary just missing piece of doc.
Yeah, so this is like the prequel to workspace enablement for tasks.
Yeah, the cleanup. Yeah, there's some cleanup without without realizing there's still a few more releases that you do have to manually.
Yeah, well, can happen. Happens to the best. Okay, so with this, I will hand over to Alok. Or is there a question?
Hi, Alex. This is Chris.
Hi. I don't.
Just one question. Migration in the sense of SMA, or migration in the sense of patching?
No, migration SMA, Siebel migration application.
Yeah, migration.
So sense of deployment.
Yeah. In the everybody else calls it deployment.
Yeah, it was poor choice to use the word activate from day one, because you have to, there's an active and inactive/active status in the database, or on the repository table, that determines whether the row is active or not. And then there's also activate inside the UI that means something totally different. It really means deploy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but it's after running a full or incremental migration process with the migration application. So that
because it's just database upgrade guide, and this is always the Siebel update part. So it's just a bit.
Yeah, that's another note. And actually, Alex mentioned that to me, I think, was that we need to separate out the migration content from the DB upgrade guide, because it's confusing to have it in there.
Yes.
For exactly this reason. So I've already created a bug for our technical writers to work on that. I don't know when they'll get to it, but because they're pretty backed up at the moment with all these new changes we're putting out. But hopefully that'll happen reasonably soon. Hopefully it's a matter of copy and paste, but I don't know if they have some complicated publishing system that requires more than the obvious to do that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Brian. So, okay, now handing over to Alok for real. Alok, you there? There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So yes, thanks everyone, and thanks Alex for inviting me. So this is like a short presentation I prepared. So so we did an upgrade for from IP 2015 to the 21.12. The main business challenge. Can you?
Yep.
Alex, can you?
There we go.
Slide, yeah. So the main business challenge was the time for the production upgrade. So everything went smooth, in another environments, like the other RR environments, but it was only the problem with the production. And what we realized that the time was very high for this table, as EVT Act table. It was having like say 35 million records. Eric, can you next slide, please? Yeah. So so this is what we followed. Like this is what was recommended. So new servers and the database copy. So we set up the new servers, took a production database copy. We named it like as a CRM perf database. Upgraded the database from 12C to 19C. Then the dev to prod process. Then the UPG rep. Ran the Siebel server, started everything. We applied the patch, and intentionally we kept one server kept on 21.4, and the rest of the servers were updated. And then of course the post install DB, and there was also a migration where we fixed some bugs, and there was some enhancements, so a full RR migration was done. So this everything is like a production like environment. It's not a real-time copy, it's just a production copy. We tested everything is working fine. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is what it looked like. So only one Siebel server is 21.4, and the rest of the Siebel server, everything is working fine. Yeah, next.
Alok, if I may.
Hello.
Yeah. The question probably on everyone's mind. Why did you keep one server on 21.4?
Yeah. So the reason was that because this is a production database copy, it's not the actual copy. We want to run the same process again for the production night, like it's during the deployment. So that was the reason. So you'll come to know in the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and we have to also take care of the EVT Act table. I did some research, and So we also tried the EIM export and import, but it was taking like too much of time, and the fastest way to delete data, like unwanted data, is to recreate the table. And that was like that is normal in like some normal tables where you just rename the table, create the table with the data you want. Like here we choose like we only wanted to keep the last 3 months data. So we did that, but the only challenge with Siebel is like it's a lot of other things, constraints, indexes. I think EVT Act had close to 100 plus indexes and all. So we did that and let the DDL imp do all the heavy lifting. Sorry, not the DDL imp, the DDL sync. So the DDL sync will sync up everything, the indexes, everything. So that's what we did. And this was done on a short outage, like maybe a few days before the go live, so that we have not 35 million, close to 3 or 4 million records in the table. So this was done before the go live. And yeah, next. So, and then we ran the DDL sync. So it took care of the indexes. So basically we renamed the indexes, because if we want to run the DDL sync, it will obviously throw an error that the same name already exists. So the archive tables, although we renamed the archive tables, we also had to rename the indexes. So that was done. And then the DDL sync ran and it created all the indexes, everything. And yeah, so the prerequisite, you can say the prerequisite was done a few days before the go live. Next slide, please. Yeah, so on the go live day, so we shut down the CRM perf environment, the database, everything, and IP 2015, which was running, it was shut down. Asked the DBA to do the upgrade from 12C to 19C. It did not take that much time. Then the UPG rep, and now it ran in 45 minutes. That was a huge improvement. Logged into the SMC and changed the security profile to match the current production database, that is the CRM prod database. So basically the database was CRM perf, but now it is everything is CRM prod. So we just want to make sure that it is pointing to the correct database, and also some minor things like changing the odbc.ini file to match the CRM prod database. So yeah, so now everything is set up in those new servers with the prod database. And then the only thing now we need to do is because the database is still new, and we have to run, although the binaries are 21.12, but we still need to do the post install DB setup. So that can be done only on one server is sufficient. So we ran that's the main intention when we kept one server as 21.4. So ran the binaries on that server to do the update from 21.4 to 21.12 with the post install DB setup. So now we have everything 21.12, and the database is upgraded with the schema of 21.12. So we restarted everything, checked everything is okay. Then the same thing, like the full RR migration, that was done. We tested everything is working fine. And there was one change which the network team had to do. That was the web servers, because the IP 2015 had those different web servers, and we had a load balanced URL which was pointing to the old web servers. So now they had to point it to the new AI servers. So the URL remains unchanged, slight change that we updated to everyone, the new URL. So yeah, so the new URL is up and running, and yeah, so that was the conclusion. And we managed to do everything in close to 4 hours of outage. So this was the main requirement for the business, because they were really concerned like how much time. They were okay with close to like 7 hours of outage, but not more than that. So we managed to achieve it. Next slide, Alex. Yeah. So the other thing is, it was not that important, but we already had the archive tables now. So the notifications, everything is visible only which are created less than 3 months back. But the archive tables also, if there is a requirement, like someone wants to see an archived notification, so how that is possible. So we created an EBC based on this archive table. So that was done like a little bit of development effort required, and then we delivered that change in the next coming couple of weeks. So this is the EBC view, which the users will need to access to see the archived notification, which are like more than 3 months old. Yeah, and we did it only for like 4 tables involved. Although the EVT Act table, when I tested it, it was close to 11 tables when we delete some records from EIM. But as per our requirement, it was those tables were not that important, so we kept the data as it is. And also like the UPG rep process, the driver files, and so we checked that, and it was only concerned with this EVT Act and those 3 or 4 more tables that they were involved. So that was our main focus. So that's how we did it. Alex, the next slide. Yeah, so this after the upgrade, I realized maybe just to note like some souvenirs, you can say. Cben is .dat file from the old environment, just in case, like if you want to compare some parameters or something, we want to check. There's nothing like the old utility which we had, the CFG merge utility, which was really helpful in finding out the differences in parameters from some different environments. So as per Bookshelf, they recommend that you like spool the data, like list parameters for that comp, and then use something like Notepad++ to compare from one environment to other. So that very useful utility is gone. So maybe if you want to keep this, I mean, of course, cbennis.dat file will be helpful, but if you can do the spool of all the components, that would really help. And the local DB extract. So this is what I realized is everything after the upgrade, it is showing like created by Sadmin, although it's created by different developers. Like the developer ID should be should be coming there, but this is what we realized. So if we want to do like some investigation, like who did what before the upgrade, like many years back, something, so it's better to have a local DB extract and Siebel do, just in case if you want to check what was done, something like that. So yeah, and one couple of lessons we learned is about the production. We initially set up the performance database, the production database copy on a different data center, but that created a lot of latency because the servers and the database were not in the same data center. And if you know this, the UPG rep process, it involves a lot of IO activities like data imp and data import and the repository import. All these things requires a lot of IO. So it's better to have everything in the same data center, same domain, everything. So that would be really helpful. That's it. So Alex, everyone, anyone has some questions?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Alok. That looks like a textbook upgrade. Well prepared, well executed.
Yeah.
It's very successful. Very great success story. Thank you for sharing it with the Siebel Hub crowd. So yeah, the floor is open. Like Alok said, if there are any questions, comments.
Good job, Alex, in 4 hours. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's, and I would not have done this, like dared to do this if there was some other tables involved, like s_contact, org_ext, but we just thought because it's just the activities table, maybe, and the business was okay, like they were okay to wait for a couple of weeks to get the archived notifications. So that's how we thought, okay, let's do it. And yeah, and one question to Alex. So this, I believe this the EVT Act table is not just. I mean, we use loyalty here, but it will be common for all the Siebel applications, right? And it will be like some common scenario, like if you have Siebel running for many years, and you will have like millions and millions of notification activities. So
Yeah,
just a thought on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so of course that's a generic Siebel table, and it's the one that always pops up on every DBA's dashboard on the top, with hundreds of millions of records if it's a big environment, simply piling up. And well, there's no automatic purging, of course. There never was, and never will be, probably, in Siebel, because you don't know what the customer needing those records or not. But the archiving idea, of course, is great, and there are a lot of projects that I heard about or worked with that have some custom built or commercial archiving solution, even to keep that number down, of the number of, because you only need the current, like you said, 3 months. The last 3 months are really important to the users, and everything after that or before that is really just has to be reachable somehow through a history view, but doesn't need to clog up the database, right?
Yeah.
I have a comment on that Siebenestat file, if I may. It's very common for people to spool out the parameters using the server manager, of course, and then using some text tool or Excel or whatever to make the comparison. You can still use the CFG merge. The trick is to use a vanilla Siebenestat. So basically, you do a blank install of a gateway somewhere, Siebel 15 gateway, then you get a blank vanilla Siebenestat with all the settings from Oracle, and then you use CFG merge to compare that, and it gives you the delta of what you changed. So that is also one possibility.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah.
I see most people using the spooling option. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the spooling option is better because what I saw is in the current version. I mean, although we have the cbns.dat file, but it was kind of empty. So
in 17, 17 entire. There's an empty Siebenestat. It's useless. Yeah. It's just, I always joke about it. Say that some bloke must have hard coded it back in the Siebel days, and the file has to be there. But I renamed the file once, and the gateway was still running. So that's
it would be nice if Oracle brings back the CFG merge or some kind of utility.
Well,
Uh,
well, watch out for the next few minutes. You'll be surprised what's up.
okay.
Okay.
Hey,
So,
Alec, I put a ticket out there for that already. It's in
okay.
Brian's queue or somebody's queue for an enhancement.
Yeah.
Carrie, actually, I think Carrie's actively working on it, like as this little side personal project. So, as opposed to because his whole engineering team's tied up. So, but I have a feeling he's just working on it himself.
Yeah, because you have to somehow use the Zookeeper stuff to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. It may end up being like a Python script or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But because of something else we're distributing that has a Python library to talk to Zookeeper, that's why I think it'll end up being in Python. But we'll see.
Okay. So great. Thanks again, Alok. That was a great presentation. A great tale to tell. So let's continue with the just have to get out of this. Let's continue with the other presentation. So yeah, two more things on the agenda. Literally, one is probably brief because I can't show it. Obviously, it's super secret on Oracle support. It's not public information. The only public information is that Oracle has published a new or updated version of the Siebel CRM statement of direction that was actually published in April. So it just didn't make it in the last Siebel Friday. I talked to John Bedford about this, who's kind of the author behind that. And John Bedford allowed me and allows me every year to put a summary out on the Siebel Hub. So there's if you look up the Siebel Hub blog, there's also a summary post on what's the highlights of the statement of directions. There's no real surprises there. The only surprise is that some of the stuff has already been delivered because it mentions January 22, where basically that's the 22 statement of direction, and it's now May, and some of the stuff announced as planned have already been delivered. So yeah, check it out and make sure that you read it and understand what Oracle is planning for the next 2 years or so. And one thing that the statement of direction mentions and is already delivered, and we mentioned that briefly in last Siebel Friday, and I get very agitated and excited when I talk about this. It's Siebel Cloud Manager. So it's available to, let's say, interested parties. And the Cloud Manager has kind of 3 use cases. So the first one, the most prominent one that's also discussed in the statement of direction, is lift and shift. So there's a Siebel lift utility, as it's called, which is capable of, gathering all artifacts that make up a Siebel enterprise starting from database, from the enterprise configuration. No reading Zookeeper and stuff, and file system content, files, etc., packing them up, pushing them to the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So that's as of current, only Oracle Cloud is supported, and pushes that into object storage on the Oracle Cloud. And then Siebel Cloud Manager picks up those artifacts and produces a like-for-like enterprise using a Kubernetes cluster with load balancer, ingress controller, GitLab, everything. GitLab is for actually it holds the enterprise configuration. There's still a Zookeeper in there, but hold on for a minute. I'll talk about this. And the second use case is a greenfield deployment. So you don't have a source environment, but you want a fresh Siebel environment. or for example, you want the sample database. You remember the OCI marketplace image for Siebel sample database that was removed in January and is probably being replaced with Cloud Manager once it's ready. And so the Greenfield deployment creates that enterprise as you configured it, basically using a REST call. So you make one REST call, and a few hours later, you have a Siebel enterprise running on Kubernetes clusters. It's pretty exciting. And it's also the third use case is for maintaining the enterprise. So you basically make changes. Let's say you want a new server, you want to change a parameter, and that you do actually in the GitLab. So you have version control, the YAML files, so-called Helm charts. And those Helm charts you modify, and there's an automated process pushing that into Kubernetes. So yeah, that's very exciting addition to the tool belt of anyone who is working with, well, Siebel in the cloud or is thinking about pushing some Siebel environments to the cloud, migrating them. For the lift and shift, you need 18.12 or higher on the source side. And I think it has to be Windows or Linux and an Oracle database. So that's, if I remember correctly. And on the Oracle side, you need an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure tenancy, the necessary administrative rights, of course. You need to cater, it's described in the documentation. You need to set up that GitLab server. And when deploying, it will use Oracle Autonomous Database, the ATP version, the transaction processing version. So that's the target database is Oracle ADB. That's what we call autonomous database. So that's a pretty big new product that's out there, and it introduces. I think that's the most underestimated aspect of it, is that it introduces a new infrastructure to maintain a Siebel enterprise using GitOps principles. So GitOps or infrastructure as code, they're interchangeable. So GitOps is using Git or similar version control to keep all your IT infrastructure configuration, and we're talking about Siebel Enterprise here, all the servers, all the components, all the component parameters in text files, which are actually YAML. And those, if they're used in that configuration, they're called Helm charts. So that's all pretty new to me, I admit, and I'm still reading up. I might put some things wrong here. But basically, if you want to change a parameter, you pull this from your Git. You make the change in the YAML file, and you commit and push it. And a so-called Flux operator. Flux is a third-party toolkit for applying change, monitoring repositories, Git repositories for changes, and then applying those changes using a customized controller to Kubernetes clusters. So all your changes that you made are version controlled, and they will be pushed automatically to the Kubernetes cluster. So I tried that. I changed the number of servers, the so-called replicas. I changed it to 4. And a few minutes later, there were 3 more servers running. I had 1. A few minutes later, were 4. I changed the parameter. A few minutes later, I could see the parameter in place in the Siebel enterprise. So that is actually pretty exciting about this. And it's confined to the architectures produced by the cloud manager currently. I'm saying currently, and I'm going out on a limb here, and I know you get an email from Brian later. You can't say it like that probably, but so any comments on that? Any insights, maybe from the Oracle side as well?
Seems like a lot of more stuff to learn. Oh my God.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
and we could go into this in more detail if you want at some point, Alex. I can have Sandeep, who's the PM for Cloud Manager, talk about this in more detail if you wanted. The other thing is we can talk about is this goes back to kind of what Alok was talking about, I think, but we also then we can leverage this to do a rolling update to the Siebel application. So, for example, go from 22.1 to 22.5 without having any downtime, which you can also do on premise, but it's a whole lot easier in the cloud because you can just, as you said, it's like 2 minutes later you've got another instance up and running.
So that literally is changing the Siebel version number in one of these YAML files.
Yeah, that's literally all you have to do.
That sounds so ridiculous. But,
yeah, I know. You literally can open this file up and change it from 22.1 to 22.5, and then delete the pod, and it'll recreate itself with running the new binaries, which is really cool.
It's like a self-driving Tesla or something.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. It's so fast, and like I said, because we provide images for each of the binary versions, right? So, as soon as a new version comes out, we provide that image that's needed to be able to run the new binaries. And literally, it's a question of editing the YAML file, changing, in that example, from 21 or 22.1 to 22.5, changing one character, change the 1 to a 5,
literally.
and now you're running new binaries.
Yeah, it runs a separate Kubernetes pod just for post-install database update. That's so sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, it does all kinds of neat stuff. So it's really pretty neat stuff. It's just it makes things so much easier to manage and so much faster.
Yeah. So really kudos to the team here. That is a great achievement. And so I'll come back on your offer of having another session with Sandeep maybe next Siebel Friday or so.
Or the other thing we could do is, and we're going to put together a training class on this. I know some of you, actually I don't see Jason on this week, but anyway, have maybe already seen the document. We put together a document on how to update how to do a rolling update so you don't have any downtime.
Yeah.
So that document has been shared with a number of customers. It will need iteration. I mean, it works fine if kind of you've got a Siebel environment and you can do it. What we have not done a lot of investigation on yet is, okay, but what if you also need to update, OBIEE or whatever, some other thing at the same time. We haven't kind of covered that. Yeah. So we're looking forward to feedback from the customers we have shared it with. And then also there's a demonstration that we've had internally that shows it uses the cloud version because it's so much faster, but you can use the same process to update an on-premise installation as well. If anyone's interested in that document, let me know. Send me an email. I'm happy to share it with people. It'll be tagged to draft. As I said, we haven't tested what happens with external systems.
But that rolling update you mentioned, applying it to on-premises, that requires a Kubernetes or
no,
containers?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It just takes longer. Right? The demo we have, which I'm going to put this into a training class. We have the demo recorded and we have the presentation. I just need to
so there's something coming up on the Oracle side.
But yeah, it doesn't require anything special for Siebel. It's just our demo shows it on the cloud using Kubernetes simply because it's so much faster.
Yeah.
The entire demo, we have I'm trying to remember, we have, I think, 3 gateways, 4 Siebel servers, and 3 AIs or something like that. And we did a rolling update of, I think it was something like 20.7 to 21 8 or I don't know, whatever. Updating the entire system, the entire thing only took 25 minutes total, and at no point were users unable to connect.
Oh wow, that's
and at no point were EAI jobs were working the whole time too.
Okay, so that's something that can be expected
Really cool.
for the near future to be available.
Yeah, we need to put the material. Like I said, I've got all the material. I need to sit down and make myself record the thing so that I can publish it.
I mean,
but
also
then that'll be available as a TOI out on
okay,
you know, just like all the others.
Okay.
And then the document itself, I'm happy to share that with anyone on this call. So like I said, just email me if you want it.
Okay, you heard the man.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm not sure here. I'm going on a bit of thin ice because that's kind of a limited release still, and not sure if I'm sure you
can. Anyone who wants to use Siebel Cloud Manager, send me a note, or if you have Mark Ferrier's address, send him a note. All you need to do is provide your tenancy information, and he'll make it available to you. So it's basically, it's just ask.
Yeah. Okay. It's an.
That's the requirement. You have to ask.
Yeah. And there will be a public version anytime in the near future. I read, I think on Oracle community, support community, there was a question about the sample image on OCI, which is gone now for 6 months. Will it be replaced by a special Cloud Manager instance?
Wait, I'm sorry. What was, I was answering
that OCI image that was out there for 21 and was removed with the Log4j vulnerability. Remember that OCI image which used Jenkins to set up a Siebel sample environment?
I don't know.
And so you mentioned a while ago that that Cloud Manager will eventually replace.
Cloud Manager definitely replaces any previous iteration.
Yeah, but will there be a specialized image for you? Or is it just Cloud Manager, use Cloud Manager to set up your sample database?
No, you would just use Cloud Manager to do it.
Okay, and so the sample database will then be in an autonomous database with 1 terabyte space and will be a bit oversized, a bit on the expensive side.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But I mean, for something, but I don't even know why necessarily a customer would want to do that. We provided that honestly more for our own internal, like sales consulting and so forth. They can set one up in minutes and not have to put anything on their own machine, right?
Yeah.
So that's to me that's the bigger driver of SampleDB. But you could use it for, I mean, if you wanted to use it, you could.
Yeah. And the other thing, I see the chat is busy. We're coming back to the chat at the end of the session. One other thing that the Cloud Manager includes, but it's not documented as of yet, is that you can basically tell it to establish the Siebel environment as in the new Siebel Component Services architecture, as opposed to the CRM architecture that we know now as post IP17. So that has been announced. That architecture has been announced 1.5 years ago in the Virtual Summit 2020. There are videos out there and then PDFs. So they're pointed out on the slide, and I will put these links on the recording later. So anything, Brian, we should watch out for in this space with component services?
Yeah. So a lot of this works now, and in fact, we have a beta going on right now. If anyone's interested in this, they can again send me a note, or again, if you happen to have Mark Ferrier's address, send it to him. And again, we can get, you have to go through our beta legal agreement, of course, but you'll be able to start to take advantage of this and see how it works, and come to understand it and so forth. It is not GA it's in beta, but primarily because some things we can't yet support. So for example, the document server functionality relies on Windows, and we need to fix it so that it will run on on OEL,
Yeah.
on Linux, or the the Triple SE product to integrate with Exchange relies on Windows authentication essentially. And so there's some things that we like that we need to that we're still working on. But the overall kind of you can set up a basic Siebel infrastructure as long as you don't need any of the things that aren't working
right.
yet. Now, I mean, like I said, it's in beta now. So again, any interest in that, please let me know. We will happily get you into the beta process. Now, this beta is going to be kind of a very long running thing because we're going to continue to enhance this as we get more. As we may GA this and then still in parallel have a beta because there's new features we will want to add to it as we go. And then, that would allow people to give us feedback on them before we start to contain whatever that feature might be in the GA version. Yeah, this is in progress. There's a gentleman on my team named Kumaresh that is the product manager for this, and he is he's very actively working on all of this stuff with his engineering team.
Yeah,
so he and Sandeep are working kind of in parallel. Sandeep with the cloud manager, which will touch this certainly, and then Kumaresh is focused on this, and then so anyway, but yeah, this is definitely in progress. The beta is live now. If anybody's interested, let us know.
Okay, and going back, thanks very much, Brian, for enlightening us here. And going back to the statement of direction, because that's why I included it here. The statement of direction takes several pages for describing the Cloud Manager functionality and the component services architecture in rather great detail, I guess. So do check out the statement of directions and follow all the hints and links that Brian gave us here. It's a great time to actually be alive and have Siebel. All right. So so that's the end of the agenda here. Let's look up the chat. There's a question probably answered already, or Mark Anderson has a question in the chat. In a previous statement of direction, Oracle mentioned support for OAuth for IMAP and POP3, but the latest statement of direction makes no mention of this. So the question is whether Oracle has abandoned this or...
Yeah, no. I'll talk to you about that. Okay, I can talk to that. Mm-hmm. The issue comes out of the fact that Microsoft said they are going to deprecate basic authentication for IMAP and POP3 and SMTP, actually. They announced this about 2.5 years ago, roughly, somewhere around there. And they keep pushing, and they said originally like 2 years ago, and they keep pushing out the date. The reason they keep pushing out the date is they haven't actually built it yet. Completely. Their solution was it only allowed interactive logins. So something like email response couldn't log in because it would require a human to provide some sort of password. So this was raised by us to Oracle and by a significant number of other Microsoft customers or vendors like us who have this situation. So they kept delaying it. They finally now have given us a pre-release of the IMAP POP3 OAuth, the non-interactive flow. So we are writing the, we are testing that out and testing our changes and making sure that works. Our intention is to release that no later than 22.9 and hopefully 22.8. And so that will meet the current October deadline for that Microsoft has publicly announced. SMTP, they have not completed the work on that yet. And they are continuing to waffle a little bit on this one. But what they've officially announced on their blog on this topic is that they are not going to turn off basic authentication for SMTP for any customer, just SMTP. POP3 and IMAP, they are turning off basic authentication. But for SMTP, they said if they will be turning it off starting in October, but if they see SMTP traffic using basic authentication, then they will, then for that tenancy, that Office 365 tenancy, they will leave it on until they have a good solution, and then probably for 3 months after. So we're waiting on them. We're very actively in contact. I've got 4 emails in my inbox this morning from the gentleman who owns the Office 365 Exchange. He's the the PM over there for it. So we are actively working with them to address that problem. I know many customers and partners representing our customers are concerned about it, but we, without a solution for Microsoft, there's very little we can do. But we are actively on top of it, and as soon as they give us something, we're ready to consume it. So anyway, that's the situation right now. If a couple of things I want to clear. One is we cannot backport this. If you're not on a recent version, then especially if you're on IP 2015 or something, it's going to stop working. We can't backport it to that. We know, all of you, I'm sure know, we are not releasing anything on IP 2015 or 16. And, we can't backport it to earlier versions of the IP 17 plus architecture. We're not yet. So we're going to expect customers are going to have to apply the update. For those customers who cannot do so for some reason or another, you're going to have to find another solution. One that I'll throw out there just briefly is, and we've had this situation in the past, even with email response, is that some Exchange admins don't want to allow POP3 SMTP, even though it's completely, whatever. Mm-hmm. They just don't want it. And so we've had situations where some customers have set up like a kind of a local email server in the same data center as their Siebel servers, and allowed, literally like a, community edition of some email server, and then just had their main Exchange server redirect emails as for the appropriate accounts to that mail server, and then you can talk to that one. You just use whatever exit version, I don't know, whatever one you want to use, and therefore your traffic between your Siebel server and your email server is local, within the data center, and you can, because it's not Office 365 in that scenario, the restriction on the authentication just wouldn't be there. So that's one approach that, like I said, customers have used in the past, even when their Exchange admins have, even on premise, refused to allow POP3 SMTP IMAP traffic. So that's my somewhat long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps people understand that we are indeed on top of it, but we have to.
Okay, much appreciated. Thanks much, Ryan. There is, so Mark has responded, and there's one more question in the chat. One thing that also I found striking, Elasticsearch has been mentioned a lot in previous SODs. Now it's no longer in the SOD. So what happened to Elasticsearch integration?
Isn't it already in Bookshelf?
Well, there is this example on GitHub for IP16. Where you could
you look in the search admin guide. we explain how to do that. Chapter 4 explains how to set up third-party search engines in general, and then specifically uses Elasticsearch as the example.
And that's the IP16 example it refers to.
I'm looking at 22.5 bookshelf.
Okay, I'm going there. Search admin guide.
Yeah, chapter 4. I mean, I honestly, I don't know a lot about search, to be honest, but I mean, it's looks to me like it's there.
Process. Okay, yeah, it seems to have something for Elastic here.
Yeah.
So it's also not my
I think
my domain usually, but the question. Okay, so it's like Rao just
Rao here.
here.
So Brian, I'm asking about the native Elasticsearch capabilities within the Siebel applets, list applet, and because that was what I saw previously in the 20 and 21 statement of direction, that natively Elasticsearch will be provided without any third-party integration. That part I believe.
Unfortunately, my predecessor was the person who owned search, so I'm not really sure what happened with that. I guess I'll have to follow up with I'll follow up with John and see if he remembers what happened. But I mean, I think, well, whatever. I think in general we're trying to move to a model where we don't care what the third party is. I don't know why we would necessarily want to do just Elasticsearch, but anyway, I'll have to research that. I don't know the background on what changed.
Okay, so that followed up with, and yeah, thanks again so much, Brian, for being here and for enduring our questions and providing us with so much information.
Anytime.
Okay, so yeah, that was a bit lengthy. Siebel, oh, there's one more chat message coming in. Some thoughts from Christian. Big part of the Siebel community is kind of old school, like never touch a running system. It runs and runs, so new features are hard to roll out. The cloud move adds new products, dependencies, complexity. So a lot of information and marketing is needed. Huge challenge for us all. Yes, indeed.
I have actually a comment on that, if I may.
Yeah.
Right now, John Medford, who you guys probably all know, but is our outbound marketing guy for Siebel, he and the sales organization and another marketing guy who's a more general one, they're currently working on putting together a comprehensive set of marketing materials to help explain how all of this works, and is the sort of thing that you could provide to your business user community and explain to them, use it to help explain to them the value of doing this kind of thing. So that is in the works. I agree about it. The more general thing of like it's a lot of moving parts and so on. To me, the benefits of moving this stuff into the cloud, as we were talking about earlier, are significant and well worth it because of the time savings involved. And not to mention it also allows a lot more flexibility. If you have, one of my favorite examples is, let's say you're a retail company and, you need whatever, four Siebel servers to run your business for 90% of the year. And then at Christmas you need, or, the holiday season, you need 12, whatever, because of load. The nice thing about being in the cloud is you just go, okay, well, let's add 8 more servers and they'll be up and running in minutes. And, you're only paying for the time you're using them. You don't have to buy extra hardware that's going to sit around dormant for most of the year. And then when you're done, you just turn them off. So, I mean, that's a very simple example that a that I feel you can explain to your business community to get them to understand some of the value of moving to the cloud is that you're going to meet their needs much more simply and at a much lower cost in overall than you would otherwise. So working on that and trying to put together scenarios that, like I said, that business users can understand that would help justify this. You know, at the same time, for all of us, it is going to be a learning curve. I mean, I am slowly, I think, understanding how all these little things work in the cloud. But I don't, you know, the two gentlemen I mentioned, Sandeep and Kumaresh, who are on my team, I hired them to do this because, you know, it is new to us as well. So I hired guys that have experience with specifically this, which is implementing things in the cloud to make sure we had the right expertise in place. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot. You know, sometimes they explain something, I'm like, I still don't really understand what's going on yet. And you know, I realize that so I agree with you. It's just a huge learning curve, but we are working on the kind of marketing materials that we would need for, you know, to help convince folks of the benefits of possibly moving to the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Brian, for sharing your thoughts on this. And I might add, as a provider of information about Siebel CRM, which is my main business, doing Siebel trainings and having to stay on the bleeding edge, so to speak, ahead of the curve. This has become a almost full-day job just to keep up with all these things, and it's definitely a challenge. Yeah, but also it's on the other hand, it's so good to see that Siebel CRM is yes, alive and kicking, literally. You know, there's so much movement, so much dynamics, like in the old Siebel days, maybe last time.
Well, and I mean, for those who haven't looked at some of the offerings that like DX4C, digital experience for communications, and upcoming soon, loyalty SaaS, Oracle as a whole is using Siebel as the base for these sort of SaaS offerings. So
the backend,
you know, we're being very actively. So a lot of the stuff we're doing is for our Siebel customers, but also for other Oracle business units to build things on top of Siebel and use it kind of as a platform. So
that's a real testament.
It's a really, you know, so yeah,
it's the strength of Siebel.
Yeah, is that you know that people at Oracle have come to realize that there's you know, a lot of benefit to the, you know, to a lot of products because of our you know, our data model and our, you know, our ability to integrate and all these other things is that makes more sense to take advantage of Siebel rather than people to write things from the ground up. So we're very, very busy.
Which the good kind of busy, I
yeah, in a good way.
Yeah. Okay.
I see a question from Nick. Is there a beta for doing a cloud implementation? I'm not sure what. I mean, we have the ongoing beta for OCI right now. As I said, just contact me or Mark Ferrier about it, and we'll set you up. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but yeah, I mean, the only requirement is you need a tenancy. If you have a tenancy, you can be part of the and you sign the beta agreement, of course, but the legal bits. But yeah, you can. Yeah, if you want to start looking at the beta, let me know.
Yeah, tenancy is an Oracle Cloud customer account.
Yeah, it means you have an OCI. A tenancy is a cloud term for meaning that you just have access to whatever cloud it is. I mean, you could have maybe we can't directly support it, but you could have an Azure tenancy or an AWS tenancy or whatever. It's just the phrase that the cloud services use.
Yeah.
Feedback to Nick, my experience from the last month. So the Oracle guys are very hands-on. So if you want to do some prototyping, search the guides from Oracle and try to build up something together. I improved a lot of help in some cloud POC.
That's the ACS team you're referring to.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Or go to Oracle Sales and say you want to do some Siebel as a service. You want to go to the cloud, and you will get some credits for free, and you will get some. And
Okay. Yeah.
and they will help you.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they are interested in running Siebel in a cloud, and there's some strategic, wave to say, okay, we keep Siebel, we keep our customers rolling. That's my experience from the last half year. It's really good.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Yeah, there is I would emphasize that if you spend money on the cloud, you can get rebates essentially on your support. I don't know the details. You got to talk to a sales guy, but if you move stuff into the cloud and that costs XYZ, then some of that you will get off of as a credit against your Oracle support annual maintenance. So that's pretty cool. And then also said the ACS team, which used to be Expert Services, it's their new name. I keep thinking Expert Services because I was in Expert Services. They have a number of offerings to help you, as Chris said. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
So they are glad about each contact. Okay, let's do something together.
Okay. So this is a big, a very big opportunity to talk about all the new things. As always, the Siebel Friday. We're 1.5 hours running now, so people probably are aching to go, so, starting their workday or closing their workday, wherever you are. So, thanks everybody for being here. Special thanks to Brian for being so patient with all these questions and providing us with so much insight. So officially stopping the recording now.